Hey there, how's it going? Welcome back to Kai City RC. We're going to be talking about the G Force Xtrada today. So if that interests you, stick around and stay tuned. Okay, so the Xtrada, this is a new belt-driven, neoclassically styled buggy from G Force Hobby here in Japan. Now, before I talk too much about this, I figured it might be worthwhile briefly talking about its predecessor, the G Force Genova. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I've got at least half a dozen videos on this on my channel. So if you want to learn more, I'll put links in the description below. So G Force are very well known over here, well respected. They're a manufacturer of RC accessories. They do things like batteries and chargers, motors, ESCs, servos, mini helicopters, drones. They do some option parts, all sorts of different things. 3 years ago, they decided to bring out their first RC buggy kit, the Genova. And it was notable because the design was supervised by the legend himself, Masami Hirosaka. Unfortunately, this has not been made available outside Japan, but in Japan, it has proven to be a very, very popular machine. It's hard to understate just how popular this is. Now, when it first came out, a lot of people were like, well, because it's a modern day machine, you can't race it in vintage classes. Because it's rear motor mount, it's not going to be competitive against mid-motor machines in modern day stock two-wheel drive classes, which is completely true. Fortunately, a lot of tracks over here have introduced rear motor mount classes. So you can run vintage machines in those classes, but you can also run newer machines like, for example, this G Force Genova, Kyosho's Dirt Master, Dune Master, Tamiya's BBX, Tamiya's newer rear motor mount buggies like the DTO4, DTO3, even the DTO2. What else? PR Racing S1RM. So quite a few tracks now do offer rear motor mount classes. And in those classes, you can run the Genova. This is my Genova. I've had this for, well, not this particular one for 3 years. This is my second Genova. My first one, which I ran extensively, featured in several videos, that is now with my brother back in the UK. This is my second Genova, and it's probably one of my most used buggies. I'm almost always got it with me when I go to the track. Despite being all plastic, it is very well made, very robust. In fact, I've had this 2 years of regular usage. I think I broke a suspension arm with a bad crash once, and I had to replace the rear hinge pin brace simply because on carpet the friction had worn it down, and so there was nothing left going up and down the banks at my local track. But aside from that, bulletproof, handles really well. I absolutely love it. And due to its popularity, it was only a matter of time before G Force decided to bring out another RC kit, and that brings us back to the Xtrada. Oh, the newly announced Xtrada. When they first announced this at the GFCC earlier this year, I was very lucky in that I was given the opportunity to interview Masami Hirosaka about the development of this chassis and also have a brief test drive. And instantly I knew I had to pick one up. I'll put links to that video in the description below, so go and check that out if you want. So this is the box that it comes in, and the Genova was always just Japanese domestic market only, but the Xtrada, as you can see, there is a lot of English on the box, and indeed, the manual is all Japanese and English as well, which leads me to believe that at some point it will be available in other countries besides Japan, which is going to be a good thing. So you won't be relying on Amazon Japan or other ways to, import it into your home country. Now, I'm not one for unboxing videos. I had every intention to do a build video, but you know how it is. Sometimes you get engrossed in the build process, and I took a few pictures and then completely forgot, and before I knew it, I'd finished it. So apologies if you were expecting to see some kind of build video. I'm sure other YouTubers that get the kit will do unboxing and build videos. I will say included in the box is everything you need to build the kit. You don't get any electronics, so you will need to provide motor, ESC, receiver, servo, etc. But you do get wheels and tires. I should point out that I've not used the kit supplied wheel tires. I've put some carpet spec ones on. But yes, so this box is empty because I already finished the car. And there we go. This is my take on the G Force Xtrada. Not box art for sure. The box art looks pretty good. The monotone color looks really good because the body has lots of creases and folds in it, and it tends to pick up the light. I really do like the styling of this. You've got some MX4 styling cues in here, and as Masami-san was saying, he wanted the design to taper towards the front. You know, modern day four-wheel drives tend to be quite wide. He wanted to taper it, hence the steering servo is actually mounted here. So it gives it a kind of a two-wheel drive appearance, but it is four-wheel drive. So in the interest of brevity, I'm not going to ramble on for ages about this, but now I've put it together. I haven't driven it, but now I've put it together. I'll just share a few of my thoughts. Overall, absolutely love it. Fantastic kit for the price. Over here, these retail for about, you can pick them up for about 36,000 yen, which is considerably cheaper than, for example, any one of the Kyosho four-wheel drive Legendary Series buggies or Super Dog Fighter, or indeed the newly announced Wonder Dog Fighter, but also much more expensive than most of Tamiya's two-wheel drive budget entries, for example, the TT02B, etc. So once again, much like the Genova, it falls firmly in the middle ground. It is all plastic, but don't let that put you off. This is some of the nicest plastic I've seen on an RC car, full stop. It doesn't appear to be reinforced in any way, but it's just really nice plastic. The kit goes together so easily. Everything fits perfectly. There's no filing necessary. It just goes together really well. Hex hardware throughout. What else can I tell you? Oh, no E-clips. Not a single one in the kit. Not a single one. Even the shock pistons, they're held in place with nuts. Plastic nuts, but nuts nonetheless. Incidentally, G Force are planning to release aluminium big bore dampers and several other optional parts later on this month, and I'm sure in the coming years as well. So it goes together really well. I will say that G Force's instructions are not the best. They can be a little bit confusing. They tend to have a lot of things going on in a single page. There was a very minor misprint in the manual, but credit to G Force. As soon as they were aware of it, they put posts out on social media. The manual that you can download from their homepage is correct. So the actual the place in question, it was just kind of missing. You could still work out what to do, but yeah, I really do like the styling of this. Okay, so let's pull the body off. Now, what you're seeing here is pretty much kit stock. The only things that I've changed are put carpet spec tires on, dyed the wheels blue, and put my own servo arm on. You do get a servo saver, but I didn't want to use it, so I put a fixed servo arm on, and I replaced the kit plastic pivot balls with metal ones. And aside from that, it's exactly as it came out of the box. So as you can see, it's a plastic chassis, and straight away I'm sure people will notice there is some Laser ZX Optima Mid kind of influences, and indeed it's intentional. This is a neoclassic design, so a design inspired by popular buggies from the late 80s and 90s. I really do like the way it looks. So the first thing is this chassis. it is a solid chunk of plastic. Once this is put together, there is no flex in this whatsoever. I do mean that. Due to the design and nature of this chassis, there's no flex whatsoever. It has a very solid feel to it. I'm not sure how much it weighs. I haven't put it on the scales yet, but it really does have a solid feel. The shock stays are really thick and beefy, held in with like 4 screws. 4 on the front and rear. You have a 2-belt design, so a short belt to the rear, a long belt to the front, gear diffs front and rear. Both the gear diffs are sealed with an O-ring. The internal gears are plastic. Most of the buggy is plastic. The only metal parts are, full bearing specification, including bearings for the steering belt crank. You've got a universal front dog bones at the rear. You do have a metal front hinge pin brace and a metal rear hinge pin brace. And then you get a very well-made, very beefy metal motor mount. Which brings me to the first, I don't want to say head scratcher, but interesting design choice. So what am I referring to? Due to the position of the motor mount hole and slot, it is not possible to fit a brush motor into the Xtrada. Brushless motors only. Most motor mounts, you would have the slots 180 degrees apart, on opposite sides. On this, one is offset, so you have to fit a brushless motor, which is a little bit strange considering this is a neoclassic based on vintage machines. So somebody may conceivably want to run a brush setup in this, but unfortunately, at least with this motor mount, that is not possible. Another possible negative is there is no real place to install any kind of cooling fan on the motor, so just bear that in mind. When it comes to electronics, due to the limited space for the servo, a low-profile servo is your only option. A full-size servo will not fit in this space. On the opposite side, you've got plenty of room for ESC, and you've got quite a lot of vertical clearance as well, so an ESC with a fan on shouldn't be a problem either. And that brings me to the battery. So, again, influenced by buggies of the 80s and 90s, the battery is installed on the underside. Now, this to me just screams retro. This, you look at this and the first thing that comes to mind are grasshoppers and Kyosho scorpions and beetles and stuff like that. Some people may like this, some people may not. It does make installation of the battery and removal of the battery a little bit more complicated. They could have just done a flat chassis and have you drop a shorty lipo in. But then, I don't know, I kind of like this old school way of doing things. So how do you install and remove the battery? Well, basically, you have a locking, I'm trying to show this without my hand covering it, but you have a locking mechanism here. So at the moment, this is in a locked position. And with this here, you're not able to squeeze the battery tabs. In order to release the battery cover, you need to slide this back and then squeeze these 2 tabs here and push down. And that will allow you to access the battery tray. Just pop it out like that. This battery door is really thick plastic, very well made. And the tabs are very thick as well, not likely to break in a hurry. And in fact, I don't even think you really need this locking mechanism, because even with this in as it is, the chances of this battery door coming loose are just almost non-existent. So it's just extra security. But anyway, where were we? Batteries. So as you can see, the battery holder is designed to pretty much any battery will fit in here. So obviously NiCads and impacts, LiPo stick packs will go in very easily. Full length LiPos will go in. At the moment, I've got a low CG shorty LiPo in here. And as you can see, in order to use it, I'm going to need to put some kind of foam sponge spacers to stop the battery from moving around. Pretty much, you can put almost any battery in here. But yeah, it all went together really well. No issues whatsoever. Other things that I do like, I like the fact that the belt cover, it doesn't have any gasket or anything like that, so it's not going to do a really, really good job of keeping the dirt out, but, fine powdery dirt, but most dirt and debris is not going to get into the diffs. Instantly, you can access the diffs from above, so you don't need to pull the whole thing apart. You could actually pull the diff covers off. But I do like the fact that the plastic is clear. So it's very easy to see if you've got any issues with the belt, any oil on the belt or anything like that. And likewise, the pinion and spur cover is also clear and very easy to check the mesh and those kind of things. It does come with a slip clutch, single pad, and it's easy to change the spur gears, or you don't actually need to make any changes to the slipper clutch. You can actually remove the spur with the slipper in place. The shocks are big bore, they're plastic, they're big bore. The stock shocks on the Genova were plastic as well, and they did really, really well. So I'd imagine these shocks are going to be similar. But yeah, there we go. That is the Xtrada. Like I say, I haven't had a chance to do a shakedown run, hopefully next weekend. Thank you for watching. My name is David. This is Kai City RC. I'll see you in the next one.